always a pleasure to see you. I am so glad you're here. Let's continue this amazing book about this extraordinary gentleman. Can you imagine being able to twist the light the way that he does? It's more than just being good at math, you know. Let's get into it, shall we? Chapter 4, on a journey of discovery outside the box. I can still see to this day the look on my mother's face as she was dropping me off on the I-10 freeway on-ramp in West Los Angeles 43 years ago. This wide-eyed, scared look that she may never see her son again. The fear was in her eyes, but true to my mother today, she never stopped me from making my own life choices, regardless of her own feelings and personal fear. She has always been good at keeping them to herself. I consider this one of my mother's greatest virtues, not letting her fears get in the way of her children's ability to seek and find their own creativity and personal genius in life. Fortunately, my very liberal parents supported me in whatever I chose to do with my life. They supported this decision of dropping out of college and travel. Their basic answer to this was, it's your life, and you must follow what gives you passion. Both my mother and father supported this belief and gave us kids freedom to choose how and what to do with our lives. I know that travel to faraway lands like Iran, Turkey, Afghanistan, and India scared my mother, but she would never have shared this with me at the time. It was not until many years later in her life that I would learn the truth of her true feelings. Both of my parents supported and believed in me, being my own person. My mother is living proof to this day in her life, aged over 100 years old, and still functioning clearly in her mind, to be open and willing to change and grow. I think I learned from her to never stop learning and changing in one's life. To this day, I believe one is never too old to learn something new and be willing to change no matter how old one is. This is so true in gemology and gem cutting in that there is a never-ending learning curve about the subject. There is always a new gem material being discovered somewhere in the world, a new mind source, some new enhancement, and for sure, new ways to carve and cut gemstone. 40 years into my career, I feel like my very best work is still ahead of me. Speaking of new gem material being discovered, we will be taking a deep dive into the newly discovered gemstone. Some call it the peacock stone. Just to give you a little hint, we will be getting into that, so stay tuned. Recently, I was visiting my mother in Los Angeles. During my visit, my two brothers and I had dinner together. During the conversation, all three of us, my older brother, then my younger brother, and I, all shared similar stories confirming the same experience while growing up. We were given way more freedom at a very early age to venture out into the world without parental oversight. At ages like 13 and 14, where we would hitchhike through the state of California, backpack in the high Sierra wilderness country, or pile in a car and go on a surf safari down the coast of California. Risky adventures for adults, let alone young teenagers like myself and my brothers. Looking back on these formative years, I can now see they were preparation for when I stepped out of my mom's car on that fated on-ramp 43 years ago, placed my thumb out, and began the journey that took me to faraway places and around the world during what would be my real college education. In the year 1973, one and a half years into college and 2 years into these multiple strange mystical experiences, I was without a compass. I was struggling to find my way through life. I felt exposed, vulnerable, and had only my wits and judgment to blindly find my way because there seemed to be no true mentor to help me find a way forward. There were road signs and clues, but I had not found anyone or any written doctrine that gave me a sense of safety and security. I was struggling to see how to make these two apparent paradoxical worlds integrate into some form of normal balance with me. I was feeling lost and out of place in my own culture. Beyond this, I had no real clue who or what to turn to for some road signs forward in life. The life I knew no longer made real sense. All I knew up to this point was what my parents, teachers, and culture said what life is all about. I was now wildly trying to understand and function this totally new dimension in my life within. It had turned my understanding of what life is supposed to be, turned upside down and inside out. It felt like it was time to explore outside my culture's box of beliefs and attitudes. What motivated me to drop out of college, age 20, was when I began to have spontaneous out-of-body states of awareness and experiences. They led me to the very core of an atom and to the far reaches of this planet in search of the indescribable, yet sublime world, to the very nature of life and reality itself. From these initial mystical and spiritual experiences, my life going forward was completely focused on this sublime inner world and dimensions. I have devoted my life to expressing these experiences through art and beauty as the best way to communicate these deeper recesses of our own consciousness and life as we know it, hidden in these micro and macro worlds of the universe. It was these very mystical experiences, along with being bored in college, that led me to drop out of school and travel the world. I wanted to search for answers in different lands and cultures beyond my West Coast American upbringing. I was longing to break out of my box and peek beyond what I knew up to this point to be true, pushing the very boundaries of my own beliefs and attitudes. I longed for something outside my Western upbringing. In my first year of college, I had studied comparative religions and opened my mind to ancient philosophies and religions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, Tao, Judeo-Christianity, as well as Islam. I was in search of meaning and wanted to understand the strange experiences that were happening spontaneously in my life at the time. I could begin to glean that below every major religion in the world today was a spiritual essence, that the universe held mysteries that the physical eyes were blind to. In college, I studied with a Sufi master who started to help me to see the world not through my physical eyes, but through spiritual inner awareness. I began to open a more real world than what I was living and growing up in Los Angeles, the world of glamour and outside image. So I chose to leave my life as I had known it and travel the world for answers. This was my new international college where I hoped to find answers to my confusion. Looking back now, I can clearly see it was a time in my life where I truly was able to live my life with complete freedom without any responsibilities. I had no wife, children, or job at that time that kept me bound to my life in America. I could choose to go anywhere and do anything that moved me. I would say over and over again in my travels during this time, I am like a leaf in the wind, and each day I wake up to see where the wind blows me. It was a very treasured time in my life. I was changed forever by it, in oh so many ways. Once I hit the road and pushed beyond my safe and somewhat idyllic life in California, little did I realize what was really in store for me. Little did I know I was going to be pushed to the very primal instinct to survive. I was not just transformed by the exposure to foreign and exotic cultures, but by the very primal fear that I had to face several times on my travels. The sheer raw vulnerability of being in a very foreign, often a very geographically remote culture, in dangerous life or death situations. Fear was pressing right up against a very natural instinct to survive. You may wonder what this has to do with my art and gym cutting. It has a lot to do with it. People often ask me when I'm working on a very rare piece in the hundreds of thousands of dollars range, aren't you scared when you're working on the stone of such high value? My answer is simple today. No, I am very calm and focused. It's like a Zen meditation for me. I only work on the stone when I am clear and ready. Plus, I don't think about the value. I'm only focused on doing the right thing with this gem. I believe my early travels exposed me to so much of what fear can be that now, in my wisdom years, I do fear, but but I see clearly how to handle it and move forward. I don't get paralyzed by fear. Fear is a good thing in it that it is meant to be an internal early warning system to survive. This is in our very DNA. Sometimes it's an exterior fear, like a train barreling down on me. Other times it is